me ask you something honest. You have been studying English for months, maybe even years. You watch videos, you memorize words, you practice sentences alone, but the moment someone speaks to you in English, your mind goes blank. Your heart beats faster. Every word you ever learned just disappears. And the worst part, you know it is happening. You can feel it, but you cannot stop it.
And it is not like you do not know English. You understand when you read. You understand when you listen. But the moment you have to speak, it feels like a completely different language is coming out.
Because for most learners, speaking is a different experience. And when this keeps happening, there is one thing almost every learner does. They think, I need more words, more vocabulary, more grammar rules. So they study harder, make longer lists, download more apps, and the speaking fear, it stays exactly where it is.
Okay, but I want to push back slightly here, because I do think vocabulary matters. If you do not have the words, how do you even form a sentence?
That is completely fair. Vocabulary does matter. But let me show you something before we go any further. You already know the word get. You probably learned it in your very first English lesson.
Yeah, of course.
Okay. Can you get better at English? Can you get a job? Can you get nervous before speaking? Can you get what someone is saying even when they speak fast?
That is 4 completely different situations, and you use the same word every single time.
4 real situations, 1 verb. All right, that is interesting, but those are still fairly simple sentences. I'm not sure that alone proves fluency comes from just 9 verbs. And that is exactly the right thing to question, because what we are about to show you is not just that these verbs are simple, it is that they are flexible in ways most learners completely miss. There are 9 verbs like this, verbs you already know, and native speakers use them constantly, not because English is easy, but because these 9 verbs can do the work of hundreds of others when you know how to use them.
So learners are not stuck because they know too little. They are stuck because nobody showed them how far the words they already have can actually take them.
That is it. And here's what makes it worse. Most English courses spend years teaching you word lists, grammar tables, and rules you will never use in a real conversation. They keep adding more to your plate. Nobody ever stops and says, wait, look at what you already have. Look at how powerful these simple words actually are. And that one gap in teaching is the reason so many fluent enough learners still freeze the moment they open their mouth. By the end of this conversation, you will see some of the most familiar English words in a completely different way. In fact, there is one verb in our list of 9 that you are almost certainly using wrong every single day. And that verb is get, the same one I just showed you. You already use it, but not the way fluent speakers do. Okay, so the 9 verbs we are talking about today are be, have, do, get, make, go, know, think, and want. That is the whole list.
Wait, those 9? I knew all of those when I was maybe 8 years old learning English.
Exactly. And that is the whole point. You already have everything you need. You just never saw how far these words can actually go. So let us start. And I want to slow down on the first one because this is where most people think they already understand, but they really do not. The verb is get.
Okay, but we already used get in the beginning. Is there really that much more to it?
Let me show you. You wake up in the morning. You want to get better at English. You go to work. You need to get there on time. Your boss says something fast. You are trying to get what he means. A friend calls. You cannot get to the phone right now. Later, you find out you got the promotion. You go home tired. You just want to get some rest. And before you sleep, you think, I think I am finally getting this.
That is one word, used 7 completely different ways, in one normal day.
One normal day. No special vocabulary, no complex grammar, just get, doing all of that work. And here is what most learners do instead. They avoid get because it feels too simple. They say, I did not receive your message, instead of, I did not get your message. They reach for the longer word every single time.
and the sentence ends up sounding stiff.
I did not receive your message honestly sounds like a formal email, not a real conversation.
Exactly. Now, get and make work as a pair in real conversations. You get an idea, you make a plan. You get a feeling, you make a decision. So let us go into make, because there is a mistake hiding inside this verb that almost every learner makes. Learners say, I need to do a decision, or she did me feel welcome. And it is not their fault. In many languages, there is just one word for both make and do. But in English, they do completely different jobs. Make is for things you create or cause. A decision, a mistake, a feeling. Do is for actions and tasks. Do your homework, do your best, do the dishes.
Oh, I have definitely said do a decision before. More than once. I thought I was speaking fine.
And that is the painful part. You were confident, you were trying, and the mistake was invisible to you. Now, think. And this one is interesting because it is the verb most learners underuse when they are nervous. When you are not sure about something in English, what do you say?
Honestly, I usually just go quiet. Or I say maybe, because I do not want to say the wrong thing.
And that silence, that pause, is what makes you look less confident than you actually are. But watch what happens when you just add think. I think that is right. I do not think that is a good idea. I think we should try. I think I need more time. Every one of those sentences sounds calm, natural, and confident. You are not just guessing, you are thinking out loud. And in English, thinking out loud sounds fluent.
Think does not show weakness. It actually shows confidence.
Exactly. Now, the other 6, be, have, do, go, know, want. I am nervous about this. She is really good at this. I have no idea. Do you have a minute? What do you do? I do not understand. How is it going? Everything went wrong. I know what you mean. I want you to understand me.
Hearing them all together like that, I could build a full conversation using just those words.
Hundreds of conversations, and every single one of those sentences felt natural when I said it, right? Nothing sounded forced or strange.
Nothing at all. They all just sounded like real English.
Because they are real English. The most real English there is. But here's what nobody warns you about. Knowing these verbs is only half of it. The other half is the silent mistake most learners are making. And 2 of these 9 verbs are where that mistake hides the most. So let us start with the one that surprises people the most. The verb know. Learners say, I am knowing this, or I am not knowing the answer. And this mistake is everywhere. It sounds almost right. It has the right words, but in English, know does not work with am in front of it. Know is a state. You either know something or you do not. You cannot be in the middle of knowing it.
Wait, I am knowing is wrong? I feel like I have said that before and felt completely confident about it.
Most learners have. And here is why it happens. In your first language, that sentence structure probably works perfectly. So your brain borrows it and puts it into English. It feels right because it is right, just not in English. And this is the thing I really want you to hear. Making this mistake does not mean something is wrong with you. It means your brain is working hard to connect 2 languages at the same time. That is not a failure. That is actually impressive.
Honestly, I needed to hear that. Because for a long time, I felt like every mistake meant I was just not good enough for English. Like other people were getting it and I was the only one still struggling.
You were never the only one. Every single learner in this exact moment has felt that. And most of them were making the exact same mistakes you were making. They just did not know it. The only difference between someone who improves and someone who stays stuck is not talent. It is knowing specifically what to fix. So now you know. I am knowing becomes I know. No am, no ing. Just I know this. I know what you mean. I know this place.
And it actually sounds more confident that way. I know is stronger than I am knowing.
So much stronger. Okay, Let us come back to the verbs now, because there is one more mistake I really want you to walk away with today, and this one is about want.
Okay, I am ready. Hit me.
Learners say, I want that you help me, or I want that she comes to the meeting. And this is a very direct translation from other languages. It feels natural because in your language, it works perfectly. But in English, you cannot put that after want and then add another person. Instead, you say, I want you to help me. I want her to come to the meeting. I want him to know the truth.
Oh, I have been saying I want that my whole English-speaking life. Like every single day, probably.
And every single day people understood you. Your meaning was always clear, but something felt slightly strange and you never knew why. Now you do. And here is what I love about this specific fix. You do not need to practice it for weeks. You do not need to drill it. The moment you hear the correct version, I want you to help me, it already sounds more natural than what you were saying before. Your ear catches it immediately. Your brain just needed someone to show it the right shape.
It is like the sentence was almost built correctly the whole time. Just one small piece was in the wrong place.
That is exactly what it is. And that is true for almost every mistake we have talked about today. Nothing was completely broken. Everything was almost there. And almost there, with the right small fix, becomes fluent faster than you think.
So here is what actually happened in this conversation today. You did not learn 9 new words. You already knew all 9 of them. What changed is how you see them. And that is a completely different kind of learning. The kind that actually sticks.
And I think that is what makes this feel different from most English lessons. Because usually after a lesson, I feel like I have more things to remember. Right now, I feel like I have less, but I can do more with what I have.
That is fluency. That is exactly what it feels like from the inside. And here is what I want every person listening to really sit with. The reason you have been struggling is not because you are behind. It is not because English is too hard for you. It is because nobody stopped and showed you what you already had. 9 verbs, words you learned years ago, and they were always enough. You just needed someone to show you how to use them.
That is the part that gets me. Because so many learners spend years feeling like they are not ready to speak yet. Like they need just a little more preparation. Just one more course. Just a few more words.
And that weight, that I am almost ready feeling, that is what steals the most time from learners. Not lack of talent, not lack of effort, just waiting for a permission that was never coming from outside. The permission to speak was always yours to give yourself.
You know what that means for me personally? I spent almost 2 years not speaking in English because I was waiting to feel ready. And nobody ever told me that the feeling of being ready only comes after you start, not before.
Never before. Always after. And that brings me to the most practical thing I want to leave you with today. Because knowing this is one thing, but doing something with it right now is what makes the difference. So before this video ends, make one sentence. Say it out loud right now. Then take 3 seconds and drop it in the comments. Get, make, want, know, think. Any verb from today. Because that one sentence makes you a speaker, not a student.
Because saying it out loud, even once, is more valuable than reading it 10 times.
10 times is not even close. Your mouth needs to practice, not just your eyes. Most learners consume English for hours every day, but they never produce it. Watching, reading, listening, that is all input. But speaking, even alone, even imperfectly, that is when real fluency starts building.
Not at the end of a long course. Not after perfect grammar. Right here. In the comments.
Right here. And if you want to keep building, because we only went deep on a few of these 9 verbs today, the next conversation is going to show you something most learners find even more surprising. It is not about verbs at all. It is about 3 small words that native speakers use to connect everything they say. Without them, even perfect sentences sound choppy and unnatural. Most learners have never noticed these 3 words. But once you do, you will hear them everywhere.
I already want to know what they are.
That is exactly how you are supposed to feel.